and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Roll call, please, Ms. Linville.
Alderman Klein.
Here.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Here.
Alderman Bostic.
Here.
Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Dupree.
Here.
Alderman Young.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is the vote on the municipal docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I move that we vote on the municipal docket.
We
As
have a motion
presented.
by Alderman Johnson. Do we have a second?
Mayor. Second.
Second by Alderman Young. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. Number 2 on the agenda is the vote, is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of moving letter C to 7B.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. The next item on the agenda is the claims docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson.
I'd like to motion that we accept the claims docket for general fund, $1,902,966.74. Bond fund cap,
Go ahead.
0. Library fund, $34,572.76. Economic Development Fund, $2,310. Utility Fund, $67,116.07, making a total of $296,965.57. And I do have to go back and correct my general fund, $192,966.74.
We have a motion by Alderman Johnson. Do we have a second?
Mayor, I'll second that.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis. Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. We are down to number 4 on the agenda, special gifts and presentations, and we're certainly honored tonight to have present the Horn Lake High School Choir. Miss Holly, would you like to come down and introduce the choir?
They're going to sing the National Anthem for you tonight.
You stand up.
That
I
was
wanted to holler, play
absolutely
ball.
beautiful. All of the Bostic said, play ball, and I tell you what, you know, we've got two people from DeSoto County doing real well. Mr. Riley for the Braves and Mr. Dean playing for Georgia. And the only thing that could have made it better for Mr. Riley tonight was if the Horn Lake Choir would have sang there. Y'all are really, really talented.
We'll go. Send us to Houston. We'll sing.
Ms. Holly, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you want to address the board.
Yes, sir. And this is not my forte, so please be patient with me. I typed it out, so I'm used to being in front of kids and doing music and not addressing those in charge of our community. So thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. On behalf of our choir boosters, my co-director, Victor McDowell, and of course our choir students, thank you for this opportunity tonight to speak to you. Because of the stellar reputation that our choral department has at the high school, our treble ensemble and our mixed ensemble, tonight these were members of our mixed ensemble, have been invited to perform at the Opryland Hotel on Friday, December 10th, for the holiday season. We would love for the kids to have this opportunity, not only to represent the school, but to represent the Horn Lake community in such a big, diverse arena, I guess you could say. The issue, of course, is money. Money makes the world go round. This is so squealy. We don't mind working hard. We fundraise. If we were to add up all the costs that it costs us in a year to do the things that we do, it costs somewhere around $65,000, believe it or not, if we add up everything. So we don't mind fundraising and working hard for that money, but this is an opportunity that we can't necessarily fundraise for. At the moment, they're working on raising money. We're traveling to Orlando in May. We're going to St. Louis in April, plus we have different festivals in Oxford, Pearl, Jackson, and Collierville this year. The registration costs and the travel expenses for the buses and so on are what we are covering now with the fundraising. Several of the students are doing that. This trip, by the way, to Florida, we were 8 days from leaving when they closed for COVID in March of 2020. So this is a long time coming. These kids have waited a long time for this trip to Orlando, and I know they're excited about it. But what COVID definitely has taught us is not to take things for granted or let opportunities pass us by. And that is why we're here tonight. We're asking for $4,800 so that we can say yes to singing at the Opryland Hotel next month on December 10th. I also do have, if you have any questions, I have broken down numbers and things like that, if you have any questions in that regard. But we just appreciate you hearing us tonight and considering our request.
Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments for Ms. Holly and the choir?
I do, Mayor.
Alderman Johnson.
Good evening, Ms. Holly. Can you give us some of the benefits of your students being in choir?
Oh, absolutely. Last year we had 7 seniors graduate. All 7 have scholarships. 4 of them full tuition scholarships to college. 1 75% to 50% just for choral music. That doesn't include any academics or other things that go along. In the past 4 or 5 years, we have easily had $300,000, $400,000 in scholarships for our students. We've got students at Mississippi State who aren't even music majors that are getting $12,000, $14,000 a year just for being part of the choral department. But more than that, it also just teaches them a love for teamwork. We work on character. We love to do community service, just, you know, making them better humans, and just having that love for music, of course. If they go on and they sing after they leave me, it makes my heart happy. But if they go on and they become wonderful humans and great citizens, then that makes it even better.
Good. Can I also ask you how many students would this $4,500 benefit?
There would be 28. There's 15 in each of those 2 ensembles, and then 2 of them overlap. We have 2 young ladies that are in both, so it would be 28 total.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Alderman Young.
When will y'all be leaving again?
It would be a day trip. We would leave the morning of December 10th, travel to Nashville. We would sing, but then we would also have lunch while we're there. We gotta feed them. That's their favorite part, when you feed them. And then do a couple of the wonderful little things that the Opryland Hotel has at Christmas time and head back that evening. We wouldn't stay the night for that trip.
Alderman Dupree.
Is there any personal money going to be provided, or are the parents helping out with the money?
We're not asking the parents for money for this because they're already putting in money. For example, the students behind me have already put in $85 towards the choir expenses for the year. That's festivals, helps cover music, and then we have our trip to Florida, which is about $500 per student.
So you were asking 4,800?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you go a little above or below? How did you come up with the 4,800?
It's like 47, like 72 or something when I do the math. So I just rounded up to 48.
Okay. I don't know if it'd be okay with the board or not, but can we just round it off to 5,000?
That would have to be in a motion.
You can always make the motion.
All right, I make the motion that we up it to 5,000.
Yeah, I'll second that motion, but before we make a vote, I just wanted to thank you for bringing the choir out tonight. That was tremendous. Yeah. And some people don't know the many years I spent on choir trips as chaperone and with my sons, and it's a great program. And one of the part of the agenda tonight is to discuss how we're going to use the money, not only for the high school, but we're going to have a discussion about working with the younger groups at the middle schools and trying to see what we can't figure out for everybody in the community. But I just want to thank you for coming out tonight and looking forward to hearing more from the choir for the years to come.
Thank you.
That was a beautiful song.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
I was going to say, Mayor, one of our favorite performances of the year is Veterans Day, and we can't wait till the Veterans Day event is back on, hopefully next year.
I was just fixing to say that y'all have been gracious enough to honor our veterans by performing for them every year at the Veterans Breakfast. And we certainly hope next year this virus, like Alderman Bledsoe said, will abate it, and we'll be able to honor our veterans and thank them for everything they've done. All right. Is there any more discussion?
Mayor, I just wanted to mention they'll be here for our Thanksgiving luncheon as well.
Are they coming just to eat, or are they gonna sing?
They're gonna sing and eat, hopefully.
They sing for food, I'm telling you.
And for $5,000.
Oh, yeah, I'll sing for that too.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? We have a motion by Alderman Dupree. We have a second to the motion by Alderman Bostic. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Thank every one of y'all, not only for tonight, but for y'all do the whole community all year.
Let that hotel know we're up there, by golly.
They're waving back there, so. All right. Moving on down to number 5, new business. Letter A. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
make a motion to purchase 4 2022 Ford Maverick trucks off state contract number 8200059543 from Landers Ford South at a total cost not to exceed $75,840. 1 2022 Nissan Altima S off of state contract number 8200059541 from Cannon Chevrolet Cadillac Nissan at a cost not to exceed $20,510, and 7 2022 Dodge Durango PPVs off the state contract number 8200059516 from Jackson Mac Hayek CDJR at a total cost not to exceed $218,015.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Who? Alderman Bledsoe. I know that everybody out there is wondering about all these vehicles, but these are for your police department. We're ranked the third safest city in Mississippi, and all of these vehicles are for our police. We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young,
Aye.
Alderman Dupree,
Aye.
Alderman Johnson,
Aye.
Alderman Bostic,
Aye.
Alderman Guys,
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe, Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter B, do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Dupree.
I make the motion to request to accept the bid and purchase a 2022 Ford Ambulance Type 3 module from Emergency Equipment Professionals at the cost not to exceed $136,845.
We have a motion by Alderman Dupree. Do we have a second to the motion?
Mayor, second.
Second by Alderman Johnson. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young,
Alderman Young.
Mayor, that was second by Alderman
Oh,
Young.
Alderman Young, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
don't
thought
even
you were
have a
pointing
face.
toward him. Second by Alderman Young. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein,
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe, Alderman Guys,
Aye.
Alderman Bostic,
Aye.
Alderman Johnson,
Aye.
Alderman Dupree,
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter C, do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Young?
request to purchase a 2023 Pierce Velocity 100-foot heavy-duty arrow tower from Pierce Manufacturing on state contract 8200027988 to be financed at a cost not to exceed $1,742,300.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Geis. Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Geis.
Are you going to keep both of these in operation once you have them?
Yes, sir. I was gonna keep, we won't get a lot of trade-in value for the 28-year-old truck, but we keep it as a reserve. We get points with the rate bureau. We could keep it at Station 3 and have it as a reserve ladder truck if one had to go to the shop.
Okay, and,
Wouldn't be manned, it would just be a reserve.
and then, this is a 2023, so are you just getting on the list to get it ordered, or?
Right now, we're at least 14 to 18 months after we make the per order to get it, yeah.
Okay.
It's out there.
So the payments and stuff will be on the next year's budget?
Yeah, we'll just have to, yeah, it will be in the 23, 24 is where we'll set the, lease purchase payment plan, whatever the board wants to do at that time. Whatever we could put down on it would just keep us from having to borrow it. Even if it's just $200,000 or $300,000, it'll sure help.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Chief or any other?
And this is also fully equipped. It's almost 200-something thousand with equipment on it.
Does that include a bell?
I hadn't got the bell on it, but we can see about adding it. We can buy a bell.
Any more discussion? Any more questions?
No, I'll buy a bell, just dingling.
Ms. Linville, roll call, please.
Alderman Young,
Aye.
Alderman Dupree,
Aye.
Alderman Johnson,
Aye.
Alderman Bostic,
Aye.
Alderman Guys,
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe, Alderman Klein.
Aye. Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Letter D.
Mayor,
Alderman Boston.
Yeah, I make a motion to request approved payment of pay estimate number 5 to Excavators Incorporated for the two-lane bridge replacement in the amount of $90,033.12.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Mr. Vince?
Yes, sir.
I know they're right on the verge of getting through. They were supposed to be through by November the 1st, but I think the weather messed them up. Have they given you any other indication of when they may complete the work?
No, sir, they're, like you said, they were scheduled to be through this by the end of this month, or in the last month, but obviously the weather got them a little bit, so they're getting close. They're about, according to our last pay request, they're about 75% complete. So the major items of work are the asphalt for the overlay, and then the sidewalks and the signal lights that will go up, pedestrian lights.
In our contract with them, we can, charge them up to $500 a day for?
Yes, you can, but you have to include weather days in that contract, which would extend their original contract time.
Yes, sir. I was just wanting to refresh my mind on that.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any more discussion? And roll call, please.
Alderman Klein?
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe?
Aye.
Alderman Geis?
Aye.
Alderman Bossy?
Aye.
Alderman Johnson?
Aye.
Alderman Dupree?
Aye.
Alderman Young?
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Did anyone sign up for
Mr. Mayor, the only person who signed up on the sign-in sheet was Mr. Miller, who has informed me that he only wants to speak in response to any discussion on the fireworks ordinance.
this is not a public hearing though, is it?
It's not, Mr. Mayor, but if the board's not inclined to let anyone in the public speak on that, then Mr. Miller, this is your chance to speak on it.
When we discuss the fireworks ordinance, is the board agreeable to let people speak?
I am.
We have,
I'm good with it.
all right. Well, I don't know the feeling of the board, because Mr. Miller will want to make a statement now if he's not going to be allowed to make the statement later.
We can either let them make it now before or after it's still speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Did you want to say it now, Mr. Miller?
I only want to speak if I have to, and I don't have to until it goes the wrong way.
Which way is that?
Could you be a little more vague, Mr. Miller? All right, so we have no citizens' remarks. All right, Mayor, Alderman, correspondence. All right. Letter A, discussion on an ordinance about the use and discharge of fireworks in the city of Horn Lake. I know the board has been very interested in this for a few months, and so has our retailers. And does anyone want to start this off on the board, talking about what you have in mind? Alderman Young.
Only thing I want to say, Mayor, is when we had our conversation, I think a month ago, whenever it was, when we had the open citizens allowed to talk, all the other retailers came from Arkansas or wherever they came from. And they sat right there and they said that they were just glad that we were able to do business the way in Horn Lake, and they would go any way we wanted to go and do anything we wanted to do. It was fine with them as long as they could sell fireworks. All except one. I think the board just needs to be aware of that. Everybody else is in total agreement, whatever this body does. except one. We just need to remember that.
Does anyone else have any? Alderman Bostic.
I'm gonna try not to preach here like I did the last time, but it's very important that we understand that the fireworks issue is a major safety issue. There's still a house that burnt 4 months ago that the neighbors around there have to live that horror every time they walk out their door, and people that ride down the street, and thank God we didn't lose a life that night. The people that came and spoke, they spoke against the fireworks. They want to get rid of the fireworks. The petition that I have is to get rid of the fireworks, and I was elected by the people to do what the people asked me to do, and I would not give them any justice if I don't make a motion to do away with the fireworks, whether I get the vote or not. So it's important to me and important to the people that voted for me. You know, however else the board feels how we want to go with this, but I would like to make a motion to prohibit the sale and the discharge of fireworks in the city of Horn Lake.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion?
Mayor.
Alderman Young.
Before we move into this vote, there's two very important factors I think everybody sitting at this body need to understand. Fireworks by the numbers. People would have you believe that we take in gazillions and gazillions of dollars from the sale of fireworks. There's a piece of paper at your desk. Our state tax rate is 7.052%. As a city, we get 1.1%. 1 cent, 1.1 cent on every dollar sold in fireworks in the city. Not in the county, in our city. So, if $10 million in sales, if $10 million in sales were done, we'd generate $100,000. We're nowhere near that. If $1 million in sales were done, now this goes for both days, okay, both periods. We generate $11,000. So I don't think we need to be drugged down the road that the tax revenue is going to suffer. I think we can all agree that that person's house is worth more than $27,000. In the last few years, it's been less than $270,000 sold in the city of Horn Lake in retail sales. We've taken in less than $27,000. What are we really arguing here? The second thing is, fireworks are a part of the American dream, part of the American celebration. I served this country with honor. I think people need to have a right to celebrate fireworks through fireworks. The city does that. If we want to go out and celebrate at our homes, we can go to the fire department and get a $50 permit to do that. That's what they did at the homecoming at Horn Lake High School, Hernando High School, Olive Branch High School. There's a $50 permit fee set up to go do that if you want to shoot fireworks for your grandkids. I don't think we need to let the majority of the people in Horn Lake continue to listen to a barrage like we had to last time. I was waiting on Francis Scott Key to stand up and sing the National Anthem. I mean, it was very distracting. I think we just need to remember that before we vote on this.
Is there anyone else who'd like to
Mayor.
speak? Alderman Johnson.
Now, initially, when we talked about fireworks, we did talk about sitting down with our vendors and having an open, honest conversation about the needs and wants of both sides and try to meet in the middle. And we didn't exactly do that. I wish that we could. I hate to lose relationships, and I know this is a lot bigger than what we're saying. Lives are at stake. I do understand that. But I also believe, too, that we can come to a decision that everybody can be happy with or just about happy with instead of just going straight to no fireworks. So I wish that we could sit and talk. You know, I think the conversation was a little more one-sided last time. Our minds were pretty much made up that this is what we want. That's it. This is what's going to happen. So that's just my thoughts. I wish that we could sit down and talk more about it. I don't know whether, you know, somebody's working on a timetable or we just want to go ahead with this, but I really wish that we could talk a little more about it.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Mayor.
Alderman Klein.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm in agreement with LaShonda there that there's been some information passed to all the aldermen in regards to suggestions. And from my understanding from the get-go was our concerns was safety and the noise. And I thought we had discussed that and come to the decision of just putting in shooting the fireworks from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then on the 3rd of July and the 4th of July, I think to midnight. And then in December, the New Year's Eve to 1 o'clock in the morning. To me, that's the only time that we need to go late is New Year's Eve. The other times could be, I would think 10 p.m. would be plenty late. So that would take care of the noise level in between that time frame. And everybody would be able to shoot their fireworks. My major concern is the safety to the public, and that's taking the time to educate the public on the proper use and supervision of using these fireworks. So I'd like to see more dialogue between the vendors and us.
Does anyone else have any comments? Alderman Bledsoe.
Mayor, you know, if people take more responsibility, I don't think we would have had a problem with the house burning down. I think if somebody would have been out there supervising, I think it's the people that buy the fireworks, it's their responsibility to be, to know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, if you don't want fireworks, a lot of people don't like fireworks, so they don't go buy them. That's fine. But we have, you know, they said the majority of the people, I don't think so. I think the majority of the people want fireworks because if you drive around, you'll see them shooting them and you'll hear them because there's a lot of folks shooting fireworks. And I got one phone call or one text and against it, and I have a bunch for it. But yeah, I grew up shooting fireworks, enjoyed it. One time didn't do too good because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. But if you're responsible for your fireworks shooting and stuff, and I think that's on the parents that should take care of business. That's what's happening nowadays. Parents are not taking care of the kids. They're turning them loose on the street. And I think the more enforcement that we have then, what we got now is sufficient. And that would take care of it, and that's my cup of tea.
Does anyone else have anything? Alderman Dupree.
When we're talking about responsibility, the majority of the people buying the fireworks have no responsibility. Most of them are teenagers. Most of them are teenagers, not all. If you go around, as you said, a lot of folks are using their fireworks. It's not the majority of the city. There is a lot, but it's not the majority. When I did a poll 90-something% were against it. I guess it's just a different ward. I'm not sure about yours. But when I was elected by the people and to do their will within the law. So that's where I'm going with this. That's why I am against it. The majority of the people don't want it. Look at what causes, look what it causes when you do have the fireworks. This past year was horrible, y'all. You know this. We had to go to work the next day. People shooting at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Police they couldn't handle it. They could not handle the calls. I know that we should have the right to shoot fireworks, but this should be in a controlled area. It should be controlled by adults, and that's not going to happen. We all know this. So, my point to all of what I just said is safety, and we don't have that because we don't have responsibilities given to our kids to do the right thing. If you go around and look at all the people who are shooting fireworks, who is shooting the fireworks? Mostly children. Yes, ma'am. I walked and I rode around this city. Did you? I did. So I'm telling you, from my experience, not what I think, but my experience, the safety is not there. It's amazing that more people did not get hurt this year than they did. When I saw that house burn, my mind was made up right then, to be honest with you. That family should not have lost their house because of a $10 firework. It should not have happened. If you want to shoot fireworks, go to a controlled area. Come to Lattimore Lakes. Watch your fireworks. Have a celebration. Party. But when it encroaches how can I say it? When your likes encroach on other people's safety, that's when we have a problem. You want to go out and shoot fireworks, that's fine. To a point. Go to a controlled area. Like Alderman Young said, that would be great. Go to a fire station. But I love fireworks. I like to shoot fireworks. But from this point on, we're going to do it in a controlled, safe area. You can do all day long trying to teach people how to do something, but when they get out there and they like that firework, they don't care about what they've learned in the past, especially these kids. They're not going to follow the rules. How many kids follow the rules today? How many people speed down this road? So when your fun encroaches on my property and my safety, that's a problem. I yield.
Does anyone else?
I might as well speak since everybody else.
Alderman Geis, yes.
My opinion on this hasn't changed. All the laws and bans in the world are not effective if you can't enforce them. Banning these isn't going to change a thing. They're going to still be shooting fireworks. They'll buy them somewhere else. They'll be shooting them here. Adding more laws, all that stuff. If you can't enforce them, they're not worth the paper they're written on. I think we need to enforce what we just changed it to less than a year ago. My subdivision was different. What I saw was different. In my subdivision, I saw parents with their kids shooting them. I did see a few kids by themselves. To me, in my area, it seemed like it got quieter sooner than it has in the past. You know, everybody's areas are different. But I have not received one call from anybody or one social media post asking me to ban them or change anything. So I just don't think banning or making a bigger ordinance and more penalties and fines and application fees and all that's going to change a thing if we can't enforce what we already have. And that's all I have on that.
Can I ask the board if there's any people in the audience?
Yes, sir.
All right. I forgot who gave me this a month, 6 weeks ago. Adjustments to the current fire codes in the city of Horn Lake. Was it Alderman Young? Uh-huh. I know we had some ideas in here about working with our vendors, like Alderman Johnson and several of the other aldermen have said that perhaps we should consider working with our vendors, talking down and seeing. Does the board wish to hear from anybody in the audience? Do y'all? Alderman Guys.
Not to step on anybody else's toes, but Alderman Bostic had made a motion to ban them. I think it might be beneficial to us to go on and vote that and see where it goes before we go on to any changes.
Well,
you know, but
did y'all want to hear from anyone in the audience before you voted?
I'll be glad to. But
Yay or nay? What does the majority wish? Would y'all like to hear from anyone in the audience before we vote on Alderman Bostic's motion?
I don't think it's necessary.
All right, we have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Dupree. All right, roll call, please, Ms. Linville.
Alderman Klein?
Nay.
Alderman Bledsoe?
Nay.
Alderman Geis?
nay.
Alderman Bostic?
Aye.
Alderman Johnson?
Nay.
Alderman Dupree?
Aye.
Alderman Young?
Aye.
Motion motion fails by a vote of 4-3. 3 in favor, 4 nays. Motion fails. All right.
Mayor?
Alderman, I was just trying to find my agenda sheet. I got so much paperwork up here. Alderman Young.
Thank you, sir. That motion failed on the vote. I would like to bring another motion forward to the board. As we discussed previously, when we had all the retailers here, and they all voiced there again, they all agreed except one that whatever we came up with, they were perfectly fine with. Just to be able to do it in Horn Lake, they were awesome. They thought we were awesome, that we treated them extremely fair, and they had no problem with anything except one. So with that being said, and under the premise of Alderman Johnson and Alderman Klein and Alderman Bledsoe and everyone else, I would like to make a motion as far as the fireworks go. I would like to reduce the retail sale of the Class C fireworks June the 27th to July 4th at midnight. 5th December to January 1st at midnight.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I'm making the motion that we
I know,
retail
the
sale.
December one, I didn't understand.
Okay, December the 20th to January the 1st at midnight.
Yeah.
New times for discharge are Saturday through Sunday, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. each night. The same thing in July. They're going to cut the days back in July, the number of days you can sell. The number of days you can sell in December, we're going to cut those back. We're going to reduce the time that they can be fired to 10 p.m. and of course on December the 31st, 1 a.m. and on July 4th at midnight only. The state requires that there be adult supervision over 18 years old. That must be required, and those IDs must be checked when those fireworks are being sold. That must be identified with the state valid ID. The violations that we talked about prior to would stay in effect. New seasonal permit cost in association with permitted sales of Class C fireworks, as discussed before, would stay in effect. Each operational tent selling Class C fireworks must provide the fireworks time limitations on the retail packaging, their boxes, their carryouts, whatever they do. Each permitted operational tent selling Class C fireworks must print and provide fireworks time limitations on signage located nearest to the checkout location. The same time limitation signage must be produced and placed at each entrance and exit. The signs will be no smaller than 4 foot by 4 foot and secured not to be blown down or stolen. Seeing how we have to have someone over 18 years of age purchasing, we should also have someone minimum of 18 years old or older selling. Each address and size of each location should have the manager's name for the police department and the fire departments. It's no different than Old Charlie's or any other restaurant in town or auto parts or anything else. No fireworks can be sold, as we discussed, to anyone under 18 years old. Each employee must be educated on the laws and familiar with the laws and ordinances in the state and in the city. Corporations with an issued business permit within the city of Horn Lake, Mississippi are subject to the following fines and restrictions. If found to be in violation, those will remain in effect as before on the prior. And the additional to this, the issue that I had in my ward, and I think that Alderman Bostic would agree, besides the house burning down and the cars burning up in my, and the booming, you know, the noise, these aerial shells. These can only be displayed and shot off during city displays. There will be no mortars, no cannons, single or multiple, sold within the city of Horn Lake or allowed to be discharged without a permit.
Did you say sold or discharged?
Sold or discharged. That is my motion, sir.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I'd like to make that second, but I'd like to add to that, one of the biggest things that we have with the ordinance, we didn't have any fines attached to that, so there needs to be fines attached to what we talked about with the citizens shooting the fireworks after 10 o'clock at night. If they do get caught by the police department, if they do get fined with no warning, they've already been notified when they bought them. They've got it in their bag. They know what time they need to be shot. So I think I'd like to add to that $100 fine to first offense, $250 for second offense, and $500 for third offense. And I'll make that second motion.
Amended.
You're comfortable with that, Alderman Young?
Amended, yes, sir.
All right. 100, 200, and 500?
250 and 500.
200, okay, 250, I'm sorry. I was just going over the thing you had the last time. I know that in the discussions, the vendors requested that they be allowed to sell on the 5th of July and on the 2nd of January to dispose of inventory. I guess because I was in the retail business and realized that selling the day after the holiday helps you move a little stock out. would you consider changing your motion to July the 5th and January the 2nd?
Till noon, yes, sir.
Till noon? Is your second still good, Alderman Bostic?
I had one question. It is still good, but I had one question. I don't know if you mentioned it or not about the cutoff of the sales time. We did talk about that, cutting it off at 10 o'clock at night.
What I have from Alderman Young, I think, basically covered what you were saying tonight, but there were some changes, so I don't know. I know in what the material he handed out a month or so ago, we had a cutoff time.
We had discussed 10 o'clock, but in the preface of trying to be fair.
10 o'clock. All right. Do y'all want to hear from the vendors, or?
I would like to.
Well, Mayor, I'm not sure exactly what they're agreed to, what we just said these last few minutes.
Sir?
Could you repeat what you said
Yes.
there, Mr. Young?
Alderman Bostic brought forward to amend the motion that there would be a fine to the individual shooting the fireworks in those numbers he indicated. The first being that they were told at the fireworks retail location, then on progresses from there. The next thing is the retail location will not be allowed to sell after 10 p.m. And we will go till noon the day after the holiday. They will be able to reduce the inventory until noon. Is that what you understood, Mayor?
That's what I understood.
That's
I hope
exactly what I
hope I got it right. So,
Alderman Bostic, is that what you understood? Okay.
does the board wish to hear from any of the vendors? Alderman Klein?
So, if I'm hearing right, you're saying they can't sell after 10?
That's right.
Okay. Me, we just got too much government involved in business like that. To me, we hadn't had the problem. The problem hadn't been the sales. The problem has been the safety.
Well, then let me ask you this question. Why does ABC Board shut it down at 10 o'clock? Why does the ABC Board not sell liquor after 10 o'clock?
I mean, that's a whole different,
It's still apples to apples. You're selling a product. What's the difference?
That's a whole different thing.
Okay.
In my
Don't believe.
Mayor,
Alderman Johnson?
is this the same document that we're speaking about that spoke about the vendors having to pay a fine if fireworks were sold to underage people and would shut them down, or?
Yes, if they're in violation of code or state, and we see that 3 times, and they come before the judge, and the judge finds the 3rd time, they will not be allowed to sell fireworks in the city of Horn Lake for a year. That's correct.
And no one under the age of 18
Can
will be
purchase
allowed.
them. That's correct.
I know during the discussion, I asked, would the fine be levied on the person who sold them or on the business?
On the business.
Well, you know, you can tell your people don't do this, and then when you leave, they do it. I mean, you can't stay there 24 hours a day.
Mayor, I think there's 2 different things.
No, I will, just a minute, please, sir, if you mind. In all fairness to our businesses, if they instruct their personnel, do not do this, and then the personnel turns around and does it, you know, when I was in the liquor business, the fine was on the person who did it. It wasn't on the business. Yeah. Alderman Dupree.
Yes, sir. There's 2 different fines. For the people who are out here shooting them after hours, they get that fine, the actual shooter.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but the other fine is something different, right?
Yes, sir. The
So
other
there's 2
fine,
different
if I
fines.
understood it correctly, is if someone makes a sale that's not approved by the board in the city ordinances, that the business would be fined instead of the person who broke the ordinance.
Okay, that's like selling liquor to a minor. Yeah, I mean, that business should be held accountable.
The fine is on the clerk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
the
gotcha.
fine is on the clerk.
All right. I do have something else. When you say mortar, what does that mean?
Hold on just a second, I'll tell you.
'Cause I'm not familiar with that. I know we have some expert pyrotechnic folks here.
A mortar is defined by the APA as aerial shells, a fireworks device designed to be launched into the air for use as a fireworks display. An aerial shell, which would be both of these, a cartridge containing pyrotechnics composition, a burst, charge, and an initial time fuse or module that is propelled into the air from a mortar. So that's the ones that you sit on the ground and you drop those.
So those are the ones that
cannonballs
make the
into.
big boom, is that right?
Right, that's the ones I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm not talking about the bottle rockets and the
Okay.
other things. Just the ones that have been rattling, you know, the ones that Francis Scott Key sang about. That's the ones I'm talking about.
I wouldn't mind hearing from the vendors.
But Mayor, let me clarify one thing. We was
Alderman
talking about-
Young.
We was talking about these fines. I do agree that owning businesses, you know, if I had trucks out here that were overweight or doing something illegally or whatever, they would ticket the driver. Well, guess who had to pay the fine for being overweight, though? That's right. It was my ultimate responsibility as owning this thing to make sure that I stayed inside the scope of the law. It's exactly the same thing whether you sell fresh produce. You know, if you sell shrimp, you have to state where it's coming. You know, the owner has skin in this game. Now, we have identified that if the owner comes and they're fined, okay, I would think the only reason that they would really be fined, I really don't think that the Chief Riles guys or girls or code enforcement would go out there and just say, you have a light bulb bulbed out outside and it's not shining, whatever. What we're looking at is the individual who may come out and say, you know what, I don't like you 10 o'clock, I'm gonna sell it at 11. Ain't no cops out here, they ain't gonna say anything to me. You know, the people that are obviously breaking the code and obviously breaking the law, they must be held accountable. If they're not gonna break the law and they're not gonna break the code, it shouldn't matter if it's $150,000. You know, and they all sat here and said they're just glad to be able to sell fireworks. I think they will all follow the code of the law. They have so far. But the people of Homer Lake that pay their taxes every day, that buy the gasoline, that buy the groceries, that vote us in office, in the poll that I took, 68% of them said get rid of them. I'm not gonna look away from that. This is a compromise. But it's not we don't make a ton off taxes like some people do, a gazillion dollars. We don't do that. We're lucky we made 27,000. So I think it's a compromise. I don't care if people want to come talk about it. There just has to be some decorum that we didn't have the last time. And I would ask you to remain that decorum. I have no problem with that, but I don't think it's an unfair ordinance. If we followed the rest of the cities in the county of DeSoto County, Olive Branch and that little square in South Haven would be the only place selling them, only city selling them. So I don't think we're being irrational. I think we're being legislative as we're supposed to be.
I wasn't implying that it was irrational. I was just making my remarks based on my past experiences. And I'm not arguing against the fine. I'm just not arguing, but just bringing up for discussion, where would the fairness be? Would it be to the clerk who obviously did what he was told not to do? Or was it to the business owner who was trying to instruct his employees to abide by the ordinance? Yeah. Y'all want to hear from some of the vendors?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I have a question for the police chief before we go there. if you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind. On enforcement, currently under the current ordinances and other ordinances at your disposal, what can you charge people with for shooting after hours and shooting fireworks in an unsafe manner and toward houses and people or anything else? Do you have anything that you can actually charge them with that has a fine or a penalty to it?
Yes, we would actually charge them under the current ordinance. The current ordinance does prohibit those things that you mentioned. And although there is not specific fines in the language of the current ordinance, under city ordinance, there is a general ordinance that states if there's not a different fine assessed specifically in the language of a specific ordinance, these are the fines across the board.
And
so there's already fines in place. I can't quote you what they are, I don't know. But
Or are you able to look those up? Yeah, I got it. Okay. And as far as if someone, do we have ordinances and laws in place that if parents are not controlling their children and they're causing damage and committing criminal acts, that the parents can be charged?
that's kind of a generalization of a question, so, you know, there would need to be specifics there. As far as related to fireworks, in the current ordinance as it stands right now, there is a provision in there that says that juveniles must be supervised by an adult. Now, on that specific section of the current ordinance, you know, me personally, I would prefer there to be more exact language in there as to what constitutes supervision, because a good attorney can debate that before the court, the way it's currently written. But that is currently in there that that the parents are supposed to be supervising juveniles.
And also, if we currently have sales times in place in our ordinances, so that would the same apply if your officers catch them selling after hours or whatever? Would the general ordinance still fall under a penalty for that as well?
Yes, sir, it would.
Thank you.
And to clarify some of the comments that have been made there, it'd be no different than selling tobacco or alcohol to a minor. You know, we're going to cite the person that conducted the sale. We're not going to cite the business, because we cannot cite a business. A business is a non-human entity. So if we were to cite, it's like false alarm calls at businesses that we go to. We can't cite the business, because if the business don't show up to court, you can't issue a warrant for failure to appear to a business. So we cite the person that was responsible for that unlawful act.
So basically, the way I'm understanding it and recalling from my time dealing with stuff like this, we have things in place now that we can enforce to try to reduce what the real issue is, which is improper use of fireworks and violations of the ordinances that we already have in place.
Yes, sir. I think the ordinance as it's currently written is not out of line, or not, is not strict enough. I would say that that's not the case in my opinion. And if I'm allowed to give my opinion, I would say one thing that I would recommend as the chief of police would be reducing the number of days that the fireworks can be fired. To me, that's where we run into issue, is there's such a long period of time that that we allow people to shoot fireworks, that all we're doing is basically creating this problem. I think if we narrow that window down to a couple days before the holiday, up to the day of the holiday, then it would make it, I think we would lessen the issues that y'all are discussing that we currently deal with.
Thank you for your information and opinion.
Mayor.
Oh, Alderman Young, yes, sir.
Chief, during the last 4th of July celebration that we went through, under the laws and the ordinances that Alderman Geis is talking about, how many tickets did your officers issue?
To my knowledge, we did not issue any.
It's not worth the paper it's written on.
Mayor.
Alderman Geis.
As I said earlier, without enforcement, no matter what we change this to, it's not going to be worth the paper it's written on. And just my opinion on this, we have, as Alderman Johnson said and Alderman Klein said, there's some middle ground here. And we have ordinances in place that we might need to clarify and come up with specific violations, like on the parents and the adults supervising them. I would recommend, just my opinion, we have a police chief that has knowledge of the laws. We have a city attorney that has knowledge of our laws and our ordinances. We have a fire chief that has knowledge of fire safety. We have fireworks people here that want to make money, and we have citizens here that want to shoot fireworks safely. We have other citizens that want the stuff to be under control and actually be enforced. So, and we have aldermen on both sides of these. Why don't we come up with a commission or whatever of those people and sit down and come up with something that does what we want it to do? You even said that the businesses weren't violating what was already written. So if the issue is safety and properly shooting these fireworks, let's come up with something that addresses that. That's my opinion on this. Police chief just gave some good information. I'm sure the fire chief has some good ideas. Let's come up with something. Maybe I've heard something different, but once the one person that did get upset in that meeting had some clarification and misunderstood something, he didn't have an issue with what we were discussing either. So let's get something written solid that all of us can sit and look at and say, yes, I agree with it, instead of throwing things out here and put this thing to rest one way or the other finally and for good. That's my opinion.
Anyone have any comments? Alderman Dupree.
Alderman Geis, the things that you were talking about are great, but I really think that that's already in place, or on paper. What he read off, Alderman Young read off, I believe that's pretty much what we agreed on last time. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I was thinking. Maybe some different provisionals, but it was the basic idea of the rules.
I believe, Mr. Billy, is that not what we asked you to lay out, some kind of format or something that we threw out here?
No, I specifically asked what my marching orders were at the last meeting, and I think y'all told me to not do anything until you got whatever written submissions were going to come back from the vendors, and I know we did get some.
That's correct. That's correct.
Alderman Klein.
That's what we was waiting on to hear from some of the vendors. And now that we've heard from them, now I think it's the point where we need to sit down and set up the guidelines.
Well, that's what I thought we were doing because of the sunshine law. We have to do it here in front of the public. We have to do that.
Well, I understand that, but at least we could go ahead and get some kind of sense of guidance there
Well, yeah.
with all parties.
Mayor,
All right, Alderman Guys.
at the last board meeting, we set up a commission to look at the ordinance for rental properties. And we asked for volunteers for that. Why don't we do that for this? We aren't violating any law by doing that. We can't be violating it for doing this. That's what I'm suggesting. Get those people together, all the interested parties together, come up with something, fight it out there, and present something to the board that can pass. I think some people are misreading this board, and we're gonna have another failed motion. Let's come up with something that is gonna pass so we can make everybody as happy as we possibly can. We aren't gonna make everybody happy regardless.
No, sir, and if the board does decide to do that, I would ask that it be done quickly because the vendors are gonna have to get prepared with inventory for the Christmas holidays and the New Year's holidays. And it would really, I think, cause them a lot of worry if they didn't know what they were gonna be able to do. And it would affect how much inventory they would need to get. Now, I need to ask you something.
Mayor.
Hold just a minute.
Okay.
Before we take a vote, thank you, sir. Would y'all like to hear from any of the vendors out there? Was that you at Alderman? Yes, Alderman Young.
I don't have a problem with what Alderman Geis is suggesting. But if we'll look back at this, when we started this process back in July or August, we asked everybody to submit what they wanted in the ordinance. We got 3 pieces of paper. What would be different this time?
If you want to make the motion and the vote.
I'm asking for the question. I'm asking a question. What would be, we asked for everybody, we didn't get any opinions from anybody. What y'all wanted, we got 3.
Well, so that, in my opinion, that means those other 3 don't want to change a thing.
Well, either that or they didn't do the due diligence, one or the other.
Well, let's keep it orderly, please, gentlemen. Let's keep it orderly. How many on the board want to hear from some of the vendors? 1, 2, 3.
What'd you say?
How many on the board want to hear any comments from the vendor? I don't mean 2 hours worth of discussion. I mean just to come up here and maybe answer questions you might have or to present their side. Like Alderman Young said, we did this once, but how many of you on the board want to hear from the vendors? 1, 2. Do any of the vendors out here have any comments to make? Would you please? Evening, Mr. Scott. Would you please, once again, say your name and address? Mr. Robinson isn't here tonight. Ms. Linville's substituting here for him, filling in.
Sure. Brent Smith, 6028 Florida Lee, Olive Branch. A lot to unpack here. Kind of went all across, and I've got some scribbled notes. A few things that I wanted to just touch on as we move across. I think we all agree to some degree that you can't legislate morality or responsibility. I think that's a pretty agreeable point. To Mr. Young's point, real quick, I had a note here. On your truck example, I agree. When the truck driver is pulled over, he's cited. That returns to corporate. Corporate deals with the fee, the fine, but not the customer. Right? The customer whose load that was would not be in relation to that if he had taken on an oversized load. So if I'm shipping something and it comes, and then we went to the alcohol, it's a lot of apples to oranges, in my opinion, on that. And I think it's good to have the division between what happens to the consumer on the side of their responsibility, and obviously the side of it that we would follow as the vendors and the retailers. Mortars, we were talking on those real quick. He was correct the way he explained it. A mortar is a single shot. It has a base tube. It's a one-off light. It's not something that you would light once and it has 20 or 30 or 100 breaks. It's a single one-off light that's a specific category within fireworks. One point on that is power. I heard the big, powerful, big, strong firework. Noise is not reflective of power necessarily in a firework. Fireworks are created through different chemical compositions that create effect, that create color, they create noise, whistle, crackle, louder effects. There's silent fireworks, there's blue, there's purple. That's all purely in the creation of the firework. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the amount of pyrotechnic composition in it.
Yes, sir, but I want to make sure you and Alderman Young are on the same track here.
Yes, sir.
I think the point Alderman Young was trying to make was the noise.
Sure.
The noise, not
But
how many bursts it's going to be or how strong. He was just referring, I think, in his motion to the noise.
To the noise side of it. Okay. Well, the safety side of it was what I was relaying, that something that's just loud or makes a specific noise within a fireworks category isn't any more inherently dangerous than one that makes less noise or vice versa, right? They're all controlled by the CPSC. We actually have a meeting on Tuesday at our office with CPSC that's doing the third round of testing on the same product, tested in China already twice. CPSC will be at our office on Tuesday to conduct the third round of testing on a product before it can be released into commerce. It's tested thoroughly, it's heavily regulated. We had a federal DOT inspection at our warehouse. Everything was checked from top to bottom, left to right. We operate in good faith. We're not trying to break any ordinance or law or time frame. We're not trying to bend any of the rules. We never have. We never will. So, you know, I think we're just here as an open book trying to get some resolution here. The one for me, personally, that's the most troublesome is the 3 strikes provision. We have no intentions of breaking any ordinance of anything that's passed, any stipulations, any guidelines, any rules. But that's a very, very punitive reaction for parts of the ordinance that could be, for instance, my understanding was that 3 violations of the ordinance would constitute 1 year. Is that correct? So one of the provisions of the ordinance is that your sign can't be blown down. Okay? We have some pretty good storms around here, and if my sign gets blown down, that's not ill intent on my part. We would fix it, we would replace it, but that's strike 1 if somebody sees my sign that got blown in the ditch. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
I'm wrong.
Yeah, because the judge is going to have to fine you on that, and if you've replaced it, he probably won't do that.
Okay, I think it's creating a lot of confusion. I guess I just sat and listened to that, and like I said, it wouldn't be ill intent. We're an open book here. We're trying to get to the bottom of this. I respect the police and the fire and these guys' opinions. One thing I did want to call back to real quick, and I'll let Mr. Scott speak and answer. In 2018, there were about 40 complaint calls. We logged these from all the meetings. In 2019, there were roughly 40. In 2020, it went up north of 80. In 2021, it went back down into the mid-40s. My question would be, was 2020 the outlier for some reason? Maybe people were pinned up for the pandemic. Maybe the calls doubled because people were just outside and acting crazy. But the calls dropped in 2021. And I can make the argument that the ordinance that y'all passed and the restrictive hours and times was effective. It cut it in half. I would think that would be a success. And then the sales dates and the complaints, most of the fireworks are shot in a pretty tight window. And I don't know, without talking to the police chief and seeing exactly when all the calls came in, with the sales dates, I don't want to set up something here that's not going to work for everybody, and create more of an enforcement problem here. But if we have people in this community that drive to a store in southern Illinois called Boomland, it's an enormous fireworks mega center, right? They have all these options around here, and they still drive all the way to Boomland every year. You know what they're going to go buy at Boomland? They're mortars, right? They're going to. And so my question would be further, that's more of an enforcement mechanism. If you don't see the mortar shot, did the mortar get shot? I'm asking a serious question, right? How does that work with the way we're trying to create something that Mr. Guy says? We got to create a mechanism that works for everybody, that creates an enforceability that we can set up and operate within effectively. So those are just some of the notes that I took as a citizen listening of the county. Those were just some questions and things that I wrote down, maybe not even directly related to the ordinance, but those were kind of the points that I had, if anybody has any questions for me.
I do, Mayor.
Alderman Dupree.
So we have noise ordinances here. Chief, are those noise ordinances put aside for fireworks?
The hours right now that fireworks are allowed to be shot basically coincide with our noise ordinance, with the exception of the holidays. And yes, on the holidays, they are an allowed exception.
All right, what makes the mortars so loud now? Used to, you couldn't buy this stuff. These things are popping off so loud, literally shaking my windows. And they're down the street or a street over. That's got to stop. That is a health issue for some people. Noise, it's really bad for us. I wouldn't mind some fireworks, to be honest with you. But these loud mortars, that has to stop. That is encroaching on people's rights for peace and peace of mind, if anything else. I mean, when you're sitting there and you hear these big booms going off like a daggum IED going off, I mean, how fair is that to us? To the people who are sitting inside their house trying to watch TV or trying to sleep. These things are going off so loud that you can't, I mean, it wakes you up from a dead sleep, or it startles you so bad. That's got to stop.
Would restricting everything to the proper times?
I don't care about the times. I don't care about the times. These things, in my opinion, y'all, it is dangerous for some people with heart issues or seizures. And I mean, my little girl has Down syndrome, and she loves fireworks, but she can't stand the boom. It scares her to death. That is a health issue for me. So if you want to, I think if we can come to a consensus, can we not get rid of those big, loud mortars? If we can do anything, y'all.
They're just gonna go buy them in South Lake.
What's that?
They're just gonna buy them somewhere else, like you said.
Well, I'm not in agreement with it, and you'll never get my vote for it.
My last thing
All right,
was
yes, sir.
on the suggestions or ideas. We did submit a counter ordinance that was a compilation from Olive Branch, Rankin County, Tipton County, West Memphis. We combed through and took points from all of them. Actually took the list that was presented at the last meeting and went point by point, and I think we agreed on everything but maybe two or three. Raised the permit fee, we're in agreement on that. Put standards on the property, cleanliness, safety, lighting, electrical, parking, cleanup inside, proper storage and disposal, proper storage containers, proper display. We did ask for the days to remain. We put hefty daily fines in there, but asked for the 3 strikes to be avoided. And we did, like I said, we left the fines in there. We would educate the employees, provide them with copies of the ordinance, that they could answer any questions that anyone would have if they came in. We could make them try to memorize it, but I don't know that that's helpful. So we would provide them hard copy to answer any questions. We're minimal to the bags. The signs, we added signs. We went pretty thorough, and like I said, I think it was probably 80% agreeable on the original list. So on the comment that there weren't any suggestions, I mean, there's a counter proposal in everyone's hands.
Mayor,
Alderman
I
Yance.
have a question. The police chief mentioned, in his opinion, it would help things if you narrowed down the days that they could be fired as opposed to the days they could be sold.
Sure.
How does that impact, would that impact sales?
It wouldn't help them, but as long as we could sell, it's a lot of, it's preparation, right? We can't flip the switch one afternoon and be prepared to go for the busy time the next day. So we open up, we sell, it's piddling. The sales sheets come in some of those early days, and there's some head scratchers. It's just slow in the beginning, but it's part of the process of a business that's been developed over 50 years.
Yeah.
So that's the sales side. So if the shooting dates were restricted, I'm not disagreeable to that.
From an enforcement background, which is my background, it's easier to enforce it over a shorter period of time.
Sure.
As opposed to, and the only complaints I have received over time was, why are they doing this for 2 weeks before and
Sure.
a week after?
Agree.
That kind of thing, and that's one that I find annoying.
Agree.
When you're dealing with dogs and people with disabilities or whatever, having to deal with that for a longer period of time, as opposed to, to me, the issue in the sales, it's the firing of them that's by the wrong people, and all that. But it would be easier for the police to enforce it over a shorter period of time.
It's a holiday weekend, in the summer especially. A lot of people set up family reunions, and things around their work schedule and in the proximity of the holiday.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
Sure.
you.
Does anyone else
Mayor,
have any questions? Alderman Young?
tell me about the salute firework. The one called Salute.
We don't sell a salute.
You don't sell it?
We just, I mean, salute now is a retail product name.
Are they not the loudest colors and added all this stuff you talk that makes the loudest boom?
A salute is not a firework subcategory, so when we have
It's an aerial though, right?
file import documents, a salute is not a category, it's a firecracker. There's a mine or a reloadable. There's a cake or a multi-shot, a Roman candle, sparkler, smoke, novelty.
Right.
Those are the categories. Salute's not a category. Salute's become a commercialized name. It's actually trademarked by a company called TNT Fireworks.
Right, and it's, yeah. You had some pretty good, I certainly like it, Alderman Geis, the tighter window, absolutely. And actually the proposal that I put out there, the motion that's still sitting on the table,
Right. actually
is extra enforcement, using code officers and police officers and you brought up the fact that China had done a lot of studies on that. I don't think I'd be using that reference to anything. I wouldn't be using that for anything right now.
Correct. That's not, excuse me.
Yeah, you said they've done a lot of testing and this and that and the other, and y'all been, right.
It's the American Fireworks Standard Laboratory that is the testing arm of imported fireworks into the United States. It is a American company based in Maryland.
That's owned by.
The former head of the CPSC ran it
Right.
for the years. It's not a China.
You're right.
I know that's a funny punchline to bring China, but it's an American-based testing facility that sets the standards for the fireworks that come into the country.
I understand.
In conjunction with the CPSC.
Right, yeah, gotcha. The amount of calls did go down last year, you're right. Basically because of what the people told me that I talked to, they didn't feel like they would be addressed anyway. So that's not a good argument on that one. And you talked about the drivers and the customers. When the driver gets stopped and the customer's not fined, well, when you sell the fireworks and in my proposal and the customer shoots those fireworks, after the times that you sell them, guess what? The customer gets fined.
As they should be.
That's exactly right. And I don't believe that you would break any laws. I don't think Mr. Wilson would break any laws. I don't think you would break any laws. You're an attorney, okay? I don't think you would. So the fine, whether it's 3 strikes, whether it's 3 DUIs, or whether it's 3 strikes, whatever, it shouldn't matter. But if you did, or if somebody bought American fireworks in 2 years because something godly happened and they decided to do something sideways, this city has got to be able to act on it. That's the reason that's in there. It's not pointing at you or anybody else. We have to look forward from today.
You have
That's the point.
Conditional use process.
That's a what?
It's a conditional use.
Well, that doesn't apply because this is a new board.
But you said down the road if someone was not
That's
compliant.
right. And I mean, you do realize that we can restrict the type of fire. We can restrict you down to sparklers. You do realize that, right?
I understand.
Okay. I just want to, I'm not mad at y'all. I'm not upset with y'all. My constituents are mad with you. The people in Horn Lake are mad with you. And we will do what Mr. Guy said. I'm sure this board will sit down and we'll do whatever we got to do. But we got to look forward and we got to take the people, not profit, into consideration. Hope you understand that. You don't understand it?
You're saying
You're
we
shaking
put
your head. You don't.
profit above people?
Right. And we don't take our people into consideration before your profit. You did like that?
Sir, there's a lot of people in the city of Horn Lake.
I tell you what,
that shoot fireworks.
Mayor, I would almost add to my motion that we put it on a referendum. Let the people of Horn Lake decide.
Well, we're kind of going over the same thing over and over here. I think Alderman Dupree wanted to say something.
I do. You know, I would actually be back on board if you would not sell those loud boom things, whatever they're called. What are they called?
Mortars.
The mortars, okay. If you would not sell that, I would be back on board.
But would we be back here, let's hypothetically say next year, because they go buy them in Olive Branch, South Haven, Senatobia, Tipton County, Oakland?
I understand.
You see what I'm saying? They're gonna bring it in.
Not necessarily. If you're selling regular fireworks, I mean, how many people are really
That's
gonna go out just to buy one certain?
a lot. For that.
Is there really?
It is for that one.
Okay.
That's the new,
Well, this is Brad. He's a pyrotechnician and master. So I guess I can believe that. So I'm still, this is kind of funny, y'all. But I'm disagreeing with the mortars. If we can do something about that, even if it cuts down on it, if you don't sell them here, and if they want to go drive out and get them and bring them back, there's nothing we can do about that. But if you don't sell them here, that's a lot less mortars being shot. I don't know, most of you live in the neighborhood. Some live outside of the neighborhood, whatever. And if you live outside, you don't hear these mortars. But this past 4th of July, those mortars are going off everywhere around my house. And it was horrible. We could, I'm going to calm down. I was angry because my wife and I had to go to work the next day. My dogs are going crazy. I know we're getting back off the dogs things. Some people don't think that that's a big deal, but it is a big deal when they're part of your family. Alderman McGeish would know. If we can just come to an agreement of not selling those, what do you think?
Well, excuse me, Mayor.
Go ahead, Alderman Bond.
They just sell it right in the county, right across the city line. They don't have to go to Tipton County. They don't have to go to Senatobia. They just go right here in the county and buy them, or go over here to South Haven and buy them. You know, it's not, but it's still gonna be there. We're still gonna get the boom. Unless we stop it altogether. Memphis stopped it, South Haven stopped it. The only reason South Haven has one, you all know why they got one. Hernando stopped it. You know, there's Collierville stopped it, Bartlett, there's a reason why all these cities stopped doing this. It's the same reason why we're sitting here talking about this today, for safety of the citizens. We're not putting our citizens first. So whatever happens, happens. It just is what it is.
Does anyone else, or did Mr. Scott have any comment?
Mayor, my name's Paul Scott. I represent American Fireworks. And I've been to your meetings before, and the ones I wasn't at, I watched the meetings. So the only thing I'd add to it, and I think Alderman Geis' comments are right on point. That if you're gonna, first of all, you have an ordinance. And you have an ordinance that originally, what brought this up was safety, noise problems, the things that you wanted to address. I would suggest to you can be addressed within your ordinance now. Because your ordinance now, as the chief said, has penalties in it for any of the violations that you have a problem, that you had a problem with. Now, you know, do you look at more enforcement, putting more officers or something? I don't know what, but there are provisions in your current ordinance that can address the problems. But my client has, through several of these meetings, we're not trying to do anything. We're trying to just run our business. We're trying to help. We're trying to cooperate any way we can. Mr. Wilson, I believe, was the one that came up here and said, look, we will put on the bags that we sell it. We'll put whatever your rules are, whatever your times for selling them are. We want to cooperate and get something in place that works for everybody. At the same time, we want to know precisely what those rules are. And I know I saw a list of some of the things that are in the motion that's before the board now. There's a lot of unknowns in that. I know you say, well, it's gotta go to the judge, and he wouldn't find you guilty if you didn't do a certain thing. That needs to be better defined. I mean, when an ordinance says you'll be fined at least $1,000 for something, which is what I read earlier, that doesn't tell you well, at least $1,000 means how much does it go to? I mean, there are a lot of uncertainties in what's proposed, and the only way to clarify those things, to put an ordinance in place, if there are changes that need to be made to accomplish the purpose that you set out to accomplish, then that needs to be worked out and made. I understand sunshine laws, a commission idea is a good idea, because then you can come up with something in writing that covers the bases that your attorney can look at, that can be considered as a whole. That said, my other point would be, you started out, the problem is not the sale of fireworks. Let me back that up. The problem is not the sale, the problem is the use and the discharge. And the problem that causes a problem for the dogs, it causes a problem for the people that are PTSD or whatever, is the discharge of the fireworks. And when you address that, that's fine. But if you go beyond that and just try to put people out of business, when you know, as Alderman Bostic says, I mean, the fireworks are gonna be brought in, you just gotta control them when they are. So, and you may not make that much money on it, but what you make is what you make that doesn't go somewhere else. I know Alderman Young, with your comments on that. Again, I think you have an ordinance in place that's relatively new, that can be maybe looked at in terms of how you enforce that ordinance, that will accomplish what you want to accomplish without a new ordinance. But if there's a need for a new ordinance or tweaks to the current ordinance, the way to go about that is, as Alderman Geis recommended, through getting all the stakeholders, everybody who has an interest in this, whether it's police, fire, vendors, citizens, everybody having input in that.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Scott? Alderman Young.
Mr. Scott, you're right. As an attorney, you would know by statute, it's only $1,000 maximum fine. Yeah, that would be by statute.
But Alderman Young, my point is that what I read said not less than $1,000 is on one of the lists. So what my point is, it needs to be in proper form before there's a vote on it.
I agree with that 100%. And about the ordinance that's in place now.
Yes, sir.
What I mentioned was, you said that ordinance needs to be used and worked and maintained and enforced or whatever. What I'm proposing is only going to be added to that ordinance, not a new ordinance. And it adds teeth to the ordinance so that we can get this under control. We don't have any bite in that ordinance right now at all.
I guess that's.
We need bite.
I guess that's something that the seven of you as alderman and alderlady, what y'all are gonna have to decide is whether it needs more bite to it or not. Because if there was nobody cited under it in the 4th of July season, and there were all the problems that you've talked about, then I don't know if it had a lot of bite to it, whether that would have made any difference. If you don't, as it's been said, if you don't enforce it, it's not any good. So put more bite into something that already hasn't been enforced just puts more bite into something that's still not enforced.
I agree. But if you do have the bite and you do enforce it like we're going to enforce it, and he's just hypothetical, he's violated 2 of them, you think he's going to be real careful about that 3rd one, isn't he?
But his.
I'm just saying.
Okay, my response to you is the problem is not, the problem when you started talking about this was not the vendors violating rules. The problem.
I'm not saying I him. I'm just saying he was a shooter.
Okay, yeah. But I mean.
Gentlemen, let's not interrupt each other, please. I've lost track of who's got the floor. You got it?
I'm done.
You know, Mr. Scott?
My response is if you, until you enforce what you have, you don't know whether the bite's enough or not. Because you've got a bite now, you can find, if somebody's out there shooting them in violation of the ordinance, there is a fine in place in the current ordinance. If you write them a ticket, $5 fine them, word gets out that if you're violating the ordinance, you're gonna pay $100 or whatever it is. Then you can know whether or not the bite's enough or not. Because right now, you don't know whether the bite's enough or whether it's not, because there hadn't been a bite.
Anyone else? Alderman Dupree.
I want to go back to what the chief said about, he would like to do some changes to it. I would love to hear what his thoughts are. If we don't do anything tonight, like Mike said, get together and talk, but I really want to hear what the chief has to say about these new ordinances, or this ordinance that needs to be enforced, and what he thinks that, I think you said that it could be challenged by an attorney, so that needs to be nipped in the bud where it's every T's crossed and every I's dotted. There is no out for them. So that's just what I have to say.
Is any more comments? Are we ready to take a vote on the motion by Alderman Young and the second by Alderman Geis?
Just one quick question. One quick question for the city attorney. Were you able to look up the general ordinance penalties?
I was, Alderman Geis. The one that Chief Ryle was referencing, it does contain a provision for a first offense penalty of $100. And of course, it contains the not to exceed $1,000 and or 90 days in jail, which is the statutory maximum for an ordinance violation.
That's the general ordinance, that if it's not listed otherwise.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's already in place. It's a minimum of 100 to a maximum of 1,000 and 90 days in jail.
Or, yes, sir.
And
Yes.
or, okay. Thank you.
Thank you for looking that up, sir. Is there anyone else to make a comment, or do are y'all ready to vote on Alderman Young? Alderman Young?
Just rescind the motion. We're gonna do the commission, I'm assuming. Is that what you wanna do?
It's up to the board. We have a motion.
Is that what
we
the
have a
board wants to do, is
second.
do a commission? Well, I'll rescind the motion this time.
Rescind?
I will rescind it, yes, sir.
What about your second there, Alderman Bostic?
No, sir.
Okay, is everyone on the board comfortable with that? Alderman Young rescinded his motion, and Alderman Bostic rescinded his second. So at the present time, we have no motion on the floor. Do we want to follow up on Alderman Geis's suggestion? Alderman Bledsoe.
Mayor, I think we need to put a date on when we finish this thing, so they can go buy their fireworks if they want to, or if things don't work out, then they won't buy any. And that, like he's talking about, is the cannons, or what do you call them things?
Mortars.
Yeah. See what can be done about that, but, I think a date needs to be set. We need to be through this. We've been carrying this on since, July? And, at one time, we had a pretty good ordinance, I thought, but like you said, wording is everything in this world. If you say the wrong word, you offend somebody. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I think that if the board does follow that, we definitely need to, in fairness to the board, the citizens, and the businessmen, have this on the next board meeting. That will be the 16th. Is everyone agreeable with that? Now, how do we do, just ask for a commission?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, you'll recall our discussion about the rental ordinance. It was my suggestion not to form a formal committee or
ad hoc?
Yes, or just an informal committee of volunteers, such that we don't have to comply with the Open Meetings Act for that committee.
Alderman Geis, would you like to volunteer?
Yes, sir.
Chief, would you like to volunteer?
Chief Linville.
And Chief Linville, would you like to volunteer? I can't see Chief, man.
I'm hiding.
He's hiding, okay.
I'll just be at your meeting, how's that?
Yeah.
We need somebody for the vendors.
I'll volunteer.
All right. You wish to have maybe a volunteer from the business side also, sir?
Yes.
Does anyone? Yes, sir.
Any other alderman?
And Mayor, I'd like to volunteer also.
Okay, that's two. That's. Ms. Limble, do you have everybody's name?
I do.
Are y'all ready to move on to letter B, or would y'all like to take a little break right quick? Can we take a break right quick? Give us about 10 minutes. We're back, and I must apologize. I was very remiss. Tonight, the board approved the promotion of Mr. White to Deputy Fire Chief. I want to congratulate you and beg your pardon for my omission a while ago. I certainly do appreciate it, and thank you for your years of service. We know you do an outstanding job as you have all these years. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, the next item, we're on number 7, letter B. Do we have, well, we just need to have a discussion. There's no motion there.
Yes, Mayor.
Alderman Bostic.
Yeah, the reason I asked to put this on the agenda tonight is not that I don't want to give the Touchdown Club any money. The reason I moved that down to this section, and then we had the choir come out tonight and perform for us, which was tremendous, and asking for money. What I would like to have a discussion about is two things. Number one, I would like to see the hotel motel tax distribution for all the departments through the city at all the schools. We have athletic directors at the high school that are affiliated with the middle school, and as those kids are coming up, we have choirs at the high school, we have choirs at the middle school, choirs at the intermediate school. We have different departments, fine arts, drama, you name it. Miss Alderwoman Johnson could probably talk some about this, about the money being distributed throughout all the schools instead of each department coming and asking for money, or us sitting in our budget to give this person, because next month we'll have one of the coaches coming from the high school asking for another $10,000 to buy uniforms. You know, I would like to have a discussion to where we can put in the budget and distribute it through all the schools and all the programs, and I think that would make it fair all the way across the board, and have that in our budget when we do our budget, to where we don't have them coming throughout the year unless it's a special circumstance that something comes up that, you know, we've already got it done. If we're going to give Horn Lake High School X dollars, then they're going to distribute that through the departments of what they need to distribute that to. And same with the intermediate school. And we don't need to leave Lake Cormorant out either. Even though Lake Cormorant is not in our city limits, 50 or 60% of those students that go to Lake Cormorant live in Twin Lakes. So that school wouldn't even be built had it not been for the kids to go there. So I just wanted to open that up for discussion and see what your ideas were on that. And Mayor, maybe if we work on something like that, maybe you could meet with the athletic director or the choir directors, different departments, and form some kind of deal to where at the beginning of the school year, they know how much money each department's going to need, to where we can put that in the budget and distribute it fairly throughout. So we're only going to give $5,000 to the choir, but we're going to give $10,000 to the Touchdown Club. You know, so what does the Touchdown Club do? They do their thing. We know what they do. What the choir does, they travel all over the place. They perform all over the place. But there's choirs in the intermediate school and the middle schools that need that money too, to help their programs, to where when they get up into high school. So that was the reason I put that on there. I wanted to get the general idea of what everybody else thought about that.
Does anyone have any comment?
Mayor.
Alderman Bledsoe.
One thing, that I'm for it too, but I'm with him. A long time ago, I thought we said we're gonna give X number of dollars, period, no matter what. But we need to inform them. It's good this year, but if it ever gets voted out, they're gonna be short $10,000 because we won't have it. So they need to be informed that we're getting this because hotel motel tax, and if it gets voted out, we won't have it anymore. So don't be dependent on it, because we don't know if it's gonna pass or not pass.
Very good point, Alderman. All of us need to be being in contact with our senators and representatives and any other senators and representatives from other areas of Mississippi. If you know them, or if any of our citizens know them out there. Alderman Johnson, did you want to say something, ma'am?
Yes, sir. I was just going to say that it's a great idea to have a set budget for the schools to be able to come forth and to get funds. Now, I certainly know that an elementary school will not have the same needs as a high school and those who have extracurricular activities, but there certainly is a need. So it would be a wonderful idea in order to be able to share with everybody a set amount.
Is the idea just to say, let's just use a figure, hypothetical, $10,000, and just say, give each school $10,000 and let the principal decide what organization gets it? Because we have supported, if the board so chooses tonight, $10,000 for the Touchdown Club and $5,000 for the choir. That's $15,000. I don't know whether we could afford to give each school $15,000 or how, or y'all would be put on the spot for every different group from every different school. And I think it would cause y'all a lot of undue grief. I would just try to think of some way that y'all could have a set policy and then let the school determine what group, because just like Alderman Johnson said, different groups and different schools have different needs. You certainly don't need the funding for an elementary school program as you do for a high school program. And then a high school program, in all fairness, that's where they get the scholarships. You heard Miss Holly talking this evening, the amount of scholarships they got, and some of them are quite large. Did she say 12,000?
Those are for college, though.
I know,
for
going to
college.
college,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about that's where, when they're in high school, that's where they get looked at for the scholarship.
Right.
So, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm just saying, how is it gonna work out?
Yeah, I mean, Mayor, we'd be looking at about 8 schools, if you count all the elementaries and the intermediates and the middle.
So we've got 2 elementaries, an intermediate, a middle, a high school here, and then 3 over at Lake Comer. That's 8 schools.
Mayor.
Alderman Guys.
Was this $10,000 for the Touchdown Club, was that already budgeted in our?
No, sir.
It wasn't?
No, sir, because it was moved down.
No, I was saying, when we did our budget this year.
It was
I
in the
know
budget.
it was
in the
listed,
budget?
okay.
Yes.
I agree with this idea. There's, we've had, I know last year we helped buy rings, or the year before, for a championship team, but we've had other championship teams at Lake Cormorant and other places. So I think it's a great idea, maybe when we do our budget workup, to say, okay, each high school gets this amount, each middle school gets this amount, each intermediate, and then each elementary, and it would go down because the difference in need, and then it goes to whoever we designate at those schools to distribute it however they need to, instead of coming here. Now, if someone wins a championship, or there's some special trip that they're gonna go on that wasn't planned, then they could always come to us and ask for assistance for that. So I agree with his idea. It's a great idea.
Is that what everybody on the board is okay with that? Working on it in next year's budget to divide it out between each school? Is that?
I'd like to go back and make a motion to approve the $10,000 for the Touchdown Club.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe, is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young,
Aye.
Alderman Dupree,
Aye.
Alderman Johnson,
Aye.
Alderman Bostick,
Aye.
Alderman Geis,
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe,
Aye.
Alderman Clark.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Alderman Bostick.
Could you, I'm sure Jim will listen to this. I just want to make sure that he gets feel of that, of what we talked about tonight.
Oh,
So when
yes.
he gets, I think getting with the principals, you go meet with the principals, or Jim would go meet with the principals and say, this is what we're talking about doing. What do you think? And kind of get a general idea of what we're looking at and helping out all these, instead of, like I said, them all coming and, I think that would be great. Thank y'all very much.
They probably won't like it if they have to make the decision, because everybody will be on them. But I agree, we do need a policy or a precedent, really, of what to do instead of the different groups. And they're all good. I've never heard one come in here tonight and any day that didn't deserve the board's support. And y'all have always been very, very generous. But in all fairness, Alderman Bledsoe.
I have one thing, are we gonna give it to them in one lump sum at the first of the year so they can know what they're gonna do? Or it needs to be a time when you're gonna give it to them?
Well, we still got time, because this is gonna be for a year away budget.
Yeah.
And we'll have to wait and see. That's a very good, it'd be nice to give it to them all at one time if we had it and say, okay, here you are. This is yours. We're glad to support you. We appreciate all you do, but this is all the board can do with their funds at the time. Is that okay? Ms. Johnson, you're right out there on the front line. Does that sound equitable and fair to you?
Yes, sir, Mayor, and I can tell you that as far as working in the school, we'll take anything, any donation. So it doesn't have to be an astronomical amount for the lower levels, for sure. Anything helps out.
Thank you, ma'am. Doesn't the school board, I don't know, I'm asking, doesn't the school board allow so much for the athletic programs at a school? Bam. And then they have to decide which one of the programs it goes to? Is that right?
Yeah.
Someone said that to me, and I don't know if it's right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the athletics department has their own budget.
Sir?
Yeah, the athletics department at each school has their own budget.
And that covers all the sports.
Yep. Yes.
Now, I was surprised when somebody told me, and again, I don't know if these figures are correct, it's based on the number of, basically how many students, but like Horn Lake, the athletic budget from the Board of Education was what, 30,000, something like that? I don't know, but it surprised me when they said that figure. I figured it would be higher because of all, and it might be. I was just told that, so I don't know. I'll find out for you. All right, anything else on that? Good idea. Okay, moving on down. Department, let's see. All I've got is Chief Riley. I noticed where the board accepted the resignation of one of the code officers. Are you going to attempt to fill that position before the first of the year?
Yes, sir. That position is not on hold like the two that were added in this year's budget. So now that that resignation has been motioned by the board, we'll post for that tomorrow.
Thank you, sir, because one fellow has a tough time covering 27,000 people. And I want to thank everyone who worked so hard for the spooktacular in the park for Halloween. I don't know how many people, have you got a guess, Chief, on how many people came?
Based on my personnel that was there, they're guesstimating somewhere in the ballpark of around 10,000, 12,000 people.
Because I know we had 5,500 bags to give out to the little ones, and we ran out of bags. And Chief, you told me we had no disturbances that night?
There was no cause for service other than one that Drew placed for traffic assistance because there was no parking left in the park, so we had to shut down the entrance, cars coming in at one point.
Well, I think our citizens really had a good time, and they showed what good citizens they are. When you've got 10,000 in there and a bunch of little kids, and you don't have any fights, well done, citizens of Horn Lake and our guests. And I want to thank the police department, the parks department, the fire department, Public Works for everything they did. In this day and time, it's so important for the citizens to see their public servants and work with them, especially our first responders. And I sincerely thank each and every one of you for an outstanding job. That's all I have. Alderman Young, I know you gave out a lot of candy.
He ate a lot too.
I had some help. Chief, I just want to personally thank all your officers for what they're doing. They handled some things in the ward this weekend that needed to be handled, and they're to be given a pat on the back. It's great to see them do what they do and do it so professionally. So just thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alderman Dupree, you have anything, sir?
No, sir.
Alderman Johnson.
Yes, sir. I just want to say that I'm so proud to be a part of this community. From the Spooktacular on Saturday, again, it was a beautiful event. It wasn't just about giving out candy, but it was about families being together and us coming together as a community, laughing and seeing one another and just enjoying being together. So it was really a great event, Drew. I do applaud you for that. Chief Rao, some officers came over to judge some pumpkins at the drop of a hat for us at Horn Lake Intermediate. I appreciate that. All that you guys do for this city, I appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. I know that it is hard work, but it takes all of us in order to get this done. So I'm just proud of Horn Lake.
Ms. Johnson also gave out a lot of candy. I didn't see her eating much of it, though. Alderman Bostic, and you gave out some, too.
Yeah, I did give out some candy. I had a good
And
time.
he ate some as well.
Yeah. I got some left over here. Anyway, I want to ditto what they said about all the departments and what a great job they did. But something happened here a couple of days ago, and I don't know if y'all know Marilyn Sarton or not. I just need y'all to remember Lawrence and Clay and John right now, the passing of Marilyn. She was a high school English teacher here, and then she was currently a professor at Northwest Community College. She's been a major impact to my family and a whole lot of families, and not sure what her arrangements are going to be, but I just want you to remember the Sarton family at this time as unexpected death, and just remember them in your prayers.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Geis, did you have anything, sir?
Yes, sir. I was going to mention Miss Sarton, and also there was another death, I believe, in your ward. A gentleman named Mike Jones. He was involved with Boy Scouts and other things. Their family fosters dogs for rescues and stuff, and he passed away from COVID. So I wanted to mention him as well.
Thank you, sir.
Keep him in your prayers.
Alderman Bledsoe, did you have anything, sir?
Just want to say it's nice to be back. And Chief, I got some compliments about 2 or 3 weeks ago before I got sick, but they said a lot of patrols been coming by, and they said they really appreciate it. So that's a good thing for you. And that's all I got.
Alderman Klein.
Well, I want to let the department heads know how much I appreciate them, and I was just talking to some people today. I feel like the city is going in the right direction, and it starts at our department heads. So appreciate everything you do.
Certainly. Well, Chief Ryle, did you have anything for the board, sir?
No, sir, I don't really have anything. I appreciate all the positive comments and feedback that we got. That's you know, in our profession specifically, that's something we don't get a lot of. So I appreciate everybody's comments that were directed towards the police department, and we'll continue to do the best job that we can do.
Thank you, sir. Anyone have any questions, comments for Chief Ryle? Mr. Gary, you got anything for the board? Anybody have questions, comments? Alderman Bledsoe.
Gary, they're doing a good job on Church Road cutting. They finally weed eating that corner up there at Church Road and all this. They did a great job. So kudos to you too.
Chief Limble, do you have anything for the board, sir?
I don't really have anything, Mayor, other than, again, thank y'all for the compliments for the fire department, first responders, police, and public works and parks. And I have heard that the park was pretty full. So that's the reason I didn't get to park in there. They wouldn't let me in. But it was, I think they all had a good time. We didn't have any incidents, but I guess my biggest thing is I thank you for the first responders. Our EMS world out there is just, it's unwhelming how many calls they're making a day. Some people just don't realize, but you can bet every day they still get hung at the hospital for hours. So, you know, they're struggling too, so we just got to keep them in their thoughts. And the medical, I know Baptist DeSoto, I think they're down a lot of nurses and people in the ER, so they're just holding us a lot longer than normal. But hopefully that's going to get better. Just hadn't got there yet. But again, thank everyone.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone have any questions or comments? Alderman Young.
Chief Linville, just let your guys and ladies know that we appreciate everything they do every single day, whether it be on the ambulance or responding in the truck to an ambulance call. I mean, there's a lot. And then they still find time to work out. They make my back hurt every time I see them up there at the fire station at 1, flipping them tires around and all that kind of stuff. But I still want a bell on that new truck.
Well, I'll see what I can do on that.
Anyone else? Mr. Coleman, did you have anything for the board?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board. I would like to say thank you for everyone coming out to the Halloween event. It was definitely a success. I would like to give a special thanks to the park staff and especially to Miss Leslie Chung, our event coordinator. She worked on the Halloween project for months, and she worked a lot of hours on it, making a lot of phone calls, mailing out letters to businesses, getting sponsors, doing all the coordination for the event, and she did a great job, and I'd just like to give her a special thanks. And then as well as to the department heads, thank y'all so much for helping out with the event. And then Alderman, Mayor, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any comments for Mr. Coleman? Alderman Dupree.
Drew, you did a great job. I appreciate you. We ran out of candy so much, and I picked up the phone, and he was there like that. And although we did still run out of candy, we gave us so many pieces of candy out. But we couldn't ask for a better parks director, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Anyone else have any comments?
Mayor.
And we were fortunate to have all the sponsors we had too, and the civic groups and the religious groups that jumped in. Alderman Young.
We will have to double his candy budget next year, but I'm really concerned about you being the only distraction or disturbance at the park. We're really going to need to.
Mr. Malavasi, did you have anything for the board, sir?
I do not, Mayor, not tonight, but I would like to just say that I got an email earlier about your question about the box culvert. The contractor emailed me here during the meeting and said that they would be there Monday to put the asphalt down and probably be through by the end of next week.
That's the two-lane road bridge?
Yes, sir.
Did you say they hope to be through by the end of next week?
Yes, sir.
Well, we'll get a lot of speeding tickets, Chief. They'll be flying over that bridge now. And thank you, Mr. Vince, for following up on that. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Malavasi? Alderman Klein.
You know I'm going to ask him, how are we coming on the roads program?
Yes, sir, like I said, we have gotten the data collected. We're waiting on them to present us with the data so that we can put it in our management software.
Are they giving you any kind of date?
Yeah, they're supposed to have that to us by the end of November. So we'll be acting on that and probably have something by, somewhere around end of January or so, I'm thinking.
All right, thank you, sir.
Anyone else have questions or comments for Mr. Malavasi? I'd like to recognize Mr. Bob Bakken. Appreciate you being here, sir.
Glad to see you're close to reaching your curfew for tonight.
You haven't been here recently then, Bob.
Hopefully this won't be that.
Mr. Campbell, did you have anything, sir?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Campbell? Do I have a motion for closed determination?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion to go into closed determination for executive session.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. We have a second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young?
Aye.
Alderman Dupree?
Aye.
Alderman Johnson?
Aye.
Alderman Bostic?
Aye.
Alderman Geis?
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe?
Aye.
Alderman Klein?
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Excuse us, please.
Just to let everybody know, the Braves are winning 3-0 in the,
We're back. Do we have a motion to come out of closed determination?
Mayor, I make a motion to come out of closed determination.
Motion by Alderman Bostic.
I'll second, Mayor.
We have a second to the motion by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Ms. Linville.
Alderman Klein?
Aye.
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 I neglected a while ago when we were doing department heads to call on Ms. Linville. And I apologize, Ms. Linville. Did you have anything for the board?
No, sir, I didn't.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Ms. Linville?
I do, Mayor.
Alderman Dupree.
Thank you for filling it, and you did a great job.
Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
I make a motion go into executive session to discuss strategy session regarding prospective litigation involving a proposed development.
Do we have a second to the motion by Alderman Geis?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Alderman Bostic makes a second. Motion by Alderman Geis, seconded by Alderman Bostic. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young?
Aye.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson?
Aye.
Aye.
Alderman Geis?
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, would you excuse us for a moment, please?
Hey, Mayor, can the department heads go?
Sir,
Can they go, department heads?
does anybody, we don't have any. All right, if the department's heads wish to leave and the,
But if we beat Southampton,
we're back. We're going to try to conclude it before we have to extend. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
Mayor, I make a motion to come out of executive session.
Motion by Alderman Bostic. Do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Bledsoe made the second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein?
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe?
Aye.
Alderman Geis?
Aye.
Alderman Bostic?
Aye.
Alderman Johnson?
Aye.
Alderman Dupree?
Aye.
Alderman Young?
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. As there's nothing else on the agenda, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic.
I make a motion to adjourn and go watch the Braves win the World Series.
I'll second that. I'll second that, Mayor. We're going to.
Motion by Alderman Bostic, second by Alderman Dupree. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young?
Aye.
Alderman Dupree?
Aye.
Alderman Johnson?
Aye.
Alderman Bostic?
Aye.
Alderman Geis?
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe?
Aye.
Alderman Klein?
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.